Well, I see a few people are signing in already. Hi, Jerry.
Hello, Kurt. How are you?
And let's see, I saw there's Ivanhoe. Hi, Ivanhoe. Can you hear us, Ivanhoe?
Can you hear me, Kurt?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
And can everybody hear me?
Yeah, that was Fred?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Ivanhoe, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, there he is. Okay.
Okay.
And who is 479?
That's me.
That's you. Okay, because I've got your name. I've got your name beside that.
Right, because I'm on my computer. I see what's happening on the computer, but I'm on
Okay.
I'm on audio via my phone.
Okay. It looks like Misty Miller is here and muted. I'm going to unmute you, Misty. Oh, you unmuted yourself.
I'm here, yep.
And you've got your video off, it looks like.
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
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 Misty, this is
Yes.
Fred.
Hi, Fred.
I owe you a drink at the district conference for doing this.
You're just fine. Don't worry about it.
And what about John Cashot?
John Cashett is muted right now, it looks like. Are you there? Can you unmute yourself, John, or I could unmute you? I have unmuted you. Can you hear us okay? Going once, going twice. And did Ivanhoe vanish?
It looks like maybe he did.
Okay.
Oh, he's back.
There we go. Okay. Maybe John has left a connection, but he's not live with us right now. So.
Okay, I'm up now.
Okay, good.
Hey, there's John. No, that's Ivanhoe.
Hey, I've got
Oh,
another. I've got a call coming in from Beloit, so I'm going to put everybody on. I'm going to put you on hold and accept that call.
Okay. Well, the last time I did one of these, conveniently, my wireless disconnected at exactly 1 hour. So hopefully that will not happen this time. I had sent Fred an email earlier. I've got about 13 participants registered above and beyond the kind of administrative and presenter group. So that's a pretty good turnout for the webinars we've been doing.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. I've got some light in the background I'm trying to get off here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that Kelly Thompson that just joined us?
Yes, I just joined you. I'm walking back to my car from a meeting at the hospital.
Okay. I thought I knew that phone number finally. So
Okay. My call was from John, and he's going to call in using the phone connect.
okay. And Fred, I do see on mine a little icon at the top that says we are recording.
Yeah. Can you? Okay. I guess it doesn't matter because we'll start in another minute.
Yeah.
So. Ivanhoe, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good.
How's it feel to be out of office?
To be what?
Who is this?
Oh, this is Fred.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can't see you. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I can see you, but you can't see me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have
I've
to
got
update my technology.
okay. Got the blank screen here with the telephone symbol.
Uh,
Right in the corner.
I'll tell you what, we're going to have enough people online that what we should do is keep ourselves on mute until we are ready to talk.
Okay.
And Misty and Ivanhoe and Kurt and I don't know if Dane is on yet, but what I would recommend is there will be just a slight lag time. So if I say something like, Ivanhoe, what do you think about, or if I ask a question to both of you, then go ahead and unmute your phone, but all participants should probably have their phone on mute. That'll prevent a lot of feedback.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're still waiting for several people,
Okay.
because I only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. That's right. Oh, it says 10 participants, but I think that's because of phone. Yeah. So I hope everybody is doing well. We'll start in just another minute or two. Give people just another minute or so more to log in.
Okay.
Now, are you wanting our phones muted or our computer screen muted for those of us having to use a telephone? I mean,
If you're using a telephone, go ahead and mute your telephone.
okay. It says mute my telephone. Well, I can hear him there, but I can't talk back.
You can't hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you both ways. I just
If
I
you're
won't
using
be able
your
to.
telephone, well, what I was going to say, if you're using your telephone as your primary means of communication, then what I would recommend you do is put your sound all the way over to off or mute on your computer.
On the computer, yeah.
On the computer
Yeah.
as well, yes. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Again,
yeah,
that's
I'm
for
with you.
feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I've shut off my speaker on the computer.
Who is the who's the 785 number?
Well, I am, among others.
Oh,
John.
Oh, that's John. Okay, so John, I've got you in 2 different places like I am. So, okay, very good. Thank you, John. And then 620-262.
That's Kelly.
Oh, hi, Kelly. Okay. I saw Lisa just joined us.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay. Kurt, I have 4:33. Do we want to go ahead? Or do we want to wait 1 or 2 more minutes? The Arlen has joined us. Well, let's go ahead and get started, and people can join us as they can. welcome everyone to this first webinar of the new Rotary year, 2019-20. And we're glad you're here. And as the information said, this is an opportunity for a conversation with current presidents to have with a couple of our past presidents and with some of the district leadership to see if you have questions now that you've spent 2 months in the job of leading your club. It goes by very quick. The year goes by very quick. I think all of us who have been in that position, or all of us who have been in any leadership position for just a year, knows that it goes by quick. It's learning on the job, it's learning as you go, it's getting comfortable, and before you know it, you're saying, well, I wish. I've heard many Rotarians say, I wish I had it over to do again so that I would do this differently. So I want to begin with asking Ivanhoe and Misty. Ivanhoe is past president from the Liberal Club, and Misty is the past president for more than a year with the Old Town Club in Wichita. And both of them have agreed to share their experience and expertise and life skills. So I'm going to ask Misty and Ivanhoe to share some of their experiences that they want to give to you as kind of setting the stage. So Misty, would you give us some of your experience of what you think you learned and might do differently?
Well, for starters, I would go to PETS. I did not go to PETS before my first year as president, and I think that really held me back a lot. So it's a little too late to give that bit of advice to everybody that's on this call right now. But and the other thing too that I wish I had done differently is to push my club more for their participation in things, because I took on so much myself just because that's what I do. By nature, that's what I do. And I really wish that I had pushed the club members to do more. And even now, I think in general, I think the club is hurting a little bit because we still don't have that active participation from the other club members.
Thank you. I think the first point you mentioned about pets, I just want to dovetail on that. Presidents, please encourage your president-elect to attend pets. It's always exciting. It's always new. There's always a lot happening in Rotary that is passed along during that meeting. And so please make that a priority. Help them possibly with travel and so forth. So, and engagement. Thank you for that. Ivanhoe.
Yeah,
How about you?
I have a couple of things I'd like to share. First, I agree with Pets. I think I was fortunate to go as the president-elect and as the president of the club. I went twice. Actually, I went 3 times. I went as a nominee. And so Pets really prepared me. And one of the things that I did initially prior to taking over is I met with 5 of the past presidents at a lunch and sort of picked their brains before I took charge and got some ideas on how to govern and how they govern. And having watched the thing for 15, 20 years, one of the mistakes that I made, though, was underestimating the power and influence of the older members. And that's something you have to be very cautious of, where you have members that have been there 30, 40 years who are very influential within the community, who look like they're about to fall out and have a heart attack at any minute, but certainly they yielded a lot of political clout. And I ran into a headache attempting to get a change in the bylaws to accommodate electronic voting, and almost killed it. But we were able to get it done. So I think for the new president, aside from your board, I think it'd be to your advantage to meet with some of those guys that just came out of office and pick their brains like you're doing here at this webinar, suited for your own club.
Let me tag into that last observation about hitting some political blowback on some things you were working on. How did you find, or what did you find was an effective tool to work through some of those senior members who weren't necessarily on the board but were still part of the kind of de facto leadership group?
I appealed to them directly. I talked to them individually, one-on-one with lunches and after the meeting, and convinced them. And I'll tell you what really did it. We had one of our older members get sick, and I had the entire club meet at the nursing home where he was. And when that happened, it just lifted the cloud off of a lot of them shoulder. But I went around to each one of those guys. There was 4 of them that were causing me the biggest grief. And I met with them individually, and we made peace. And I think that you know, when you have an opposition internal to you and you don't really understand why, I think your best approach is to go directly to the source and do it off, do it off campus, or do it in a private setting. I found that to be very effective.
Thank you. Yeah, that face-to-face communication.
Yeah.
One more question, and then what I'd like is to see if anybody in our audience has any questions. But one more question for both Ivanhoe and Misty. Working with your board, what was the hardest thing about working with the different personalities within your board, or that of those people that were on your board? And obviously, how do you address that? So, Misty, you're up.
Well, for Old Town, we were the board. The whole club was the board. Because we're such a small club, we didn't have that benefit of being able, I guess it's a benefit, pros and cons, but we didn't have that opportunity to have a separate board. But even just amongst the club in general, and as different ideas would come up, it was difficult, again, with the older members versus the younger members. For fundraising ideas, we had different personalities that weighed in. And really what we ended up having to do is come to a happy medium and say, what is the best idea for the club here? Not what I think is the best idea personally, and not what interests me the most, but as a club, what's going to benefit us the most? And so that there were probably some hard feelings exchanged, but that's just going to be how it is in any kind of a situation when you've got multiple people weighing in.
One of the difficulties that I ran into with the board was, again, the older members on the board. We didn't have and don't have to this day a rotational map for who and the term limit for being on the board. We have board members that have been on that board for over 20 years. And there were 3 of them, and they had a direct connection to the political opposition within my club. I shouldn't say opposition, because we were all, it was a friendly sort of thing, but it was difficult for me to get my ideas through the whole club because there were 1 or 2 of the board members that had that direct connection. One of the things that I would recommend to a new club is to take a look at term limits on the board, because if you don't, you'll have some guys, the older guys, that are so comfortable in their position on the board that they will have a tendency to dominate the ideas and the direction that you want your club to go. So I think, and you should put that in your bylaws. If you haven't got it in there, I certainly recommend that be incorporated into your bylaws and term limits. And we didn't have that incorporated into ours. And when I took over, I had the same 3 guys ask me, without me thinking about my potential problems, if they could stay on the board. Certainly I had no opposition to it, because they had served there for the entire time that I've been in Rotary. So that's a consideration.
Great. And I think that when you're looking at smaller clubs, you tend to have people who either stay or rotate back onto the board
Yes.
very often. And Misty, you're a small club. Your club's small, but we have a lot of small clubs in the state, and you know, that is a problem with with doing things as kind of the club as a whole or committee as a whole. So I want to see if anybody has any questions. Any of our audience have any questions? If you do, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
Well, this is John. Go ahead.
I heard John's voice first, so John, go ahead.
Oh, well, I served as president probably, I don't know whether it was 15 years ago or what, and we'd ran into a situation where we had a president that, well, we had a lady reappoint herself as president for a second year, and then she appointed another person president without any club input or knowledge. And so we've been kind of struggling to get back on track. That's the only reason I took the job, was because I felt we needed. But, you know, kind of like Ivanhoe said, we've been a singing club. I guess maybe everybody once was, but we'd held on, and some of the feelings was that it was probably making visitors uncomfortable and potential members. And so I proposed that, and I did it gradually. I told them that the board was thinking about it, and then the board discussed it, and then we put it to a vote in a meeting, and then also put it out on our emails that everybody could respond, and it was, you know, pretty much like 90% that we would not sing out of the book, and we still have an opening song. But like Ivanhoe, I went to the people that I knew were passionate about music and talked to them. We currently don't have bylaws, and that's another thing I'm working on. What we've got proposed is that it will rotate board. We'll have 3 members at large, and they'll rotate out every year. One will rotate out every year, and then of course we've got our officers that stay on, and our secretary. Unfortunately for her, she's been on there a long time. But yeah, it's sure, if you know, bylaws aren't necessary until you have an issue, and then you know, what we had was Madam President was reappointing herself and others without any membership input, and so yeah, you need bylaws to fall back on.
And if I could dovetail back in real quick, and I certainly, I think you're right on track with what you're doing. We were a singing club in Liberal, and part of my, we brought in, during my year, we brought in 10 new members, which was unheard of, and we were a singing club. So the music part of that certainly helped us, and really when visitors come, because we have a pianist and all that, when visitors come, they really enjoy the singing, because we have a leader, a song leader, and he gets up and leads the song. But let me go back to the importance of the bylaws, and I can't overemphasize that one particular thing. And I think you have to identify that early on. And in my club we had 2 or 3 lawyers, and I avoided letting the lawyers do it, not out of any selfish thing or anything against the lawyers, but I knew that if we had given it to the lawyers, I did let them review after I appointed a committee to take a look at what past presidents wanted, the kinds of things that we wanted to include into our bylaws. And then the last thing I did was let the lawyers have a look at it to make sure that we were within the, keeping things within the Rotary International and making sure we wasn't doing anything out of line. But I didn't think that the ground floor should have been, you know, the lawyers ought to have been bogging around that document. Probably would have been 100 pages or so, and we have it down to less than 25.
Well,
So anyway, that was kind of.
As a lawyer, Ivanhoe, let me tell you, you did a great service for your lawyer members to not have them do the bylaws. For some reason,
Yes.
people think lawyers ought to do bylaws. I'm a lawyer. I'm a trial lawyer. So
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do is work with bylaws. So you.
And I know it's a cumbersome process,
Yeah.
and most lawyers don't like it.
And-
But you know, I had a couple of members on the floor that wanted give that to the lawyers. And I said, well, no, I'm on the appointed committee of 5 people, and they went to work, and that's what we did. And I did, however, I think it's important that they review, giving them an opportunity to review it and look at it. You know, and when that worked well was because we found 2 or 3 glitches in what we had done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have anything against lawyers, by the way. I think you're great people.
And who was the other person who was getting ready to jump in with a question? I know John was. Who was the other person?
I wasn't going to, but I do have something related to the bylaws.
Okay, go ahead. I think that's Amy.
Yes, this is Amy, current president, Rotary in Wichita. We had lost the bylaws somewhere along the way, and we were wanting to add corporate membership, which needed to be like most of the corporate membership documents that I had seen referred to bylaws. So as a club, then we developed some bylaws, but because we are a small club, the bylaws have, if the club is less than 15 members, this way. If it's more than 15 members, we do it that way so that we have room for growth. And so far, with 2 months, we've been well. That I'd be happy to share the bylaws with anybody who might be interested.
And I would do the same. You know, if anybody's interested in what we've done, I could email it out to anybody that wants it. Just to take, it's very simple. It's not complicated at all. But could I just say something about the makeup of my board, which makes it kind of unique and liberal, is that on our board, and I don't know how other people do this, but we have the president nominee and the president-elect, with the current president sitting on that board as voting members, in addition to the officers, you know, that we have. So I think it's imperative that you get your future leadership involved in your board process before they become president. The nominees and the elects, for sure, should do it. Just a side note, but I mean, I benefited from it. It's the only reason I'm suggesting that that it be done that way, if possible.
In the downtown club in Wichita, we have a similar structure. The president nominee is a non-voting member, then the president-elect becomes a voting member.
Mm-hmm.
But that does allow for a little bit more of an organized succession of leadership and gives the incoming president a pretty good context when they're getting started, I think.
Yeah.
So I think the essence of that is make sure we have smooth transition of leadership, make sure that people, certainly our president-elects, are involved with the board, and past presidents certainly are a valuable resource for us. Thinking about other resources, what are some of the other resources that either Misty or Ivanhoe have used while they were president to help them lead, to help them engage, to help them make their club as strong as possible? So again, I'll start with Misty.
I really used the president's group that met every month. I used that as a huge resource, especially because I was so new to Rotary in general when I became the president. So that was a great resource for me, was just reaching out to those other presidents, and Jerry and Deanne. All those girls were amazing resources for me as well when I was needing some help with anything.
I found it.
Hang on, Ivanhoe.
Yeah, I went to. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to give context, Misty is talking about the Wichita area clubs presidents get together periodically, once a month, once every 6 weeks or so, And because of proximity, it's fairly easy to do that. I know in some other parts of our district, that may not be as easy. But we have a couple of assistant governors, and what our assistant governors might consider doing is doing something like we're doing now, is creating a date where just the presidents of those 4, 5, 6 clubs can get together via a conference call and just talk about what's happening, what's going on. Is there something we can share? Is there something I need help with? So, AGs, that's a good tip for you guys. Go ahead, Ivanhoe.
Well, I was going to let me dovetail to that. You know, I think one of my suggestions at this past Pets was that the governor, the new governor coming in, have a meeting periodically with his presidents, and I think that would be very, very helpful. You know, to the club presidents, all of them, and I would do that maybe 4 times a year, maybe, I don't know, but on a consistent basis. The other thing from resource point of view is that Rotary International, I went to Atlanta for the international conference, and when I went there, I really got, well, I'll tell you, I got energized in Rotary and tapped into some of their stuff. You know, there's a diabetes prevention group. There were several different groups, and I tapped into those because one of the projects that we did in Liberal was the diabetes awareness program, and Rotary International certainly helped me out with information and how to get that going. So don't forget, now you can go online and tap into Rotary International. All kinds of resources are there.
Excellent. Other questions from our audience?
Boy, this
It's quiet out there.
I guess everybody knows how to run their clubs.
So let me chime in if I can. Fred. If I can,
go ahead.
let me follow up with Ivanhoe on the idea of the governor meeting with club presidents. I'm trying to schedule quarterly or so meetings with the assistant governors where we would use a forum like this, a Zoom conference. Are you suggesting maybe do a similar kind of meeting with as many presidents as possible participating directly just to talk about the year to date?
I think so, and I tell you, there's nothing wrong in my view with a personal eye-to-eye meeting, maybe a lunch or something. You know, it's kind of hard to get everybody together, but I find that to be, and I think you got guys that'll be willing to come. You know, maybe once or twice during your tenure, just to check the pulse and
Okay.
You know, see what's up. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a great idea, and I think I could see a lot of use coming out of that.
But that would be separate and apart from the club visits, just to have a brainstorming forum where everyone's got some face time with everybody.
Yes, and see, your assistant governors are helpful, but man, I tell you, there's no, to me, that direct contact from your president to you is valuable to you as a president, I would think. But you have an awful lot of them, so, you know.
Yeah. Let me go ahead. If there are no questions yet, let me ask a question of our 2 primary panelists. And as you got into your term, about this time into your term, 2 months into it, 3 months into it, what were you saying to yourself, and what did you do to address that issue, that you know, or that, or what did you change, and did you change?
From my perspective, I got the club busy. We were more of a lunch, singing, you know, go home and do good. I developed projects that required participation by the club. And we were doing so many things in that first 2 or 3 months that the word got out that, boy, if you join Rotary, you're going to work your butt off. And so we really did a lot of good things. We had 4 or 5 projects going at one time. Now it slowed itself down because I started burning people out. So toward the end of my tenure, we wasn't quite as busy as we were the first 6 months or so. But it helped me grow the club. Like I said, we grew 10 members in about 10 months, and that was unheard of for my club.
Right. Misty?
I would like to say I came out with these great ideas and made these great changes that really helped us grow the club, but I would be lying to you.
You did a great job.
Well, in our club was kind of a weird situation when I came into it because our president before me left halfway through his term. His wife relocated her job, and so they moved away. And so we were a good 6 months or so without a president at all. So I jumped into it and just tried to take the bits and pieces that I liked from his format and incorporate that into our club and into the new format. And that included getting out and doing volunteer projects. It included taking tours, because the small size of our club, we like to get out and take tours, so to speak, field trips. I think those were just things that were outside of the norm for a club. You know, we didn't do lunch meetings, we had the evening meetings. So that was a benefit that we had, and it was also a thing that hurt us, I think. So, I mean, I just tried to really play on our small size and the strength of our small size, as opposed to trying to be like the downtown club, because we're not downtown and never will be downtown. And that was one of the things I did like, the small size, the I don't know, the unconventional format of our club. So in that was what I hoped would be a draw for other people. Maybe it still is.
Well, one of the things I'm hearing from both of you is that you made your presidency your own. You didn't try to necessarily copy, and you tried to have your personality and come out from your leadership. And I think that is a wise thing for all of us as we take on leadership roles. It's our personality that will help us to be successful, to be genuine, to be to help motivate folks. So again, I want to stop. Go ahead, Ivan.
Yeah, Mendoza fired me up with his enthusiasm when he was the district governor, and he would come around and he was very, very well. He was fired up about Rotary, and I think as the president, you've got to get fired up about your club and about Rotary, and you've got to transmit that excitement to your club. And I tried to be excited at my meetings about the different projects and the people involved in the projects, and I recognized those folks that were contributing, and just kept them fired up like that. I was always saying something great about what the club was doing and each of its members that were participating. So it really fired up my club. We got excited about being Rotarians, and I think that's a part of what the president has to do, is transmit that desire to be good Rotarians and to always talk about what Rotary is and what it means to the world.
Excellent. Any questions yet?
I'm a fired up Rotarian, so.
You are.
This is Lee Musel in Great Bend. I have a question pertaining to a comment made earlier about term limits for board of directors and putting that in the bylaws. What about the secretary who is so critical to the continuity and power and strength of the club? Would he be subject to a term limit also?
If you, this is John, the Rotary International has a template set of bylaws that you can base on. They've got it to where the secretary would have a 1-year term, but I agree with you that it takes 2 to 3 years to really get the swing of things as a secretary, and whether you have I don't think there should be a term limit. but I don't know that you should have to die to get out of the job either.
My experience with the secretary was that the secretary of my club, when I assumed the presidency, had been there for 15 years. And then midway through his term to my term, he resigned. And I had no replacement picked out or even knew what I was going to do with the secretary. And we went a month without one. And then I appointed one. And that person didn't work out. So the last part of my tenure was really without a secretary. And I highly recommend that it be on a rotational basis, because 15 years of one person understanding all that there is to know about the administration, when it comes time to transition and that knowledge goes away, now you're left with ground zero, having to start all over. So I don't see that rotation is not a bad thing, but maybe not as, certainly not 15 years, but I'd probably say 3 to 4 years would be, you probably ought to try to change it out so you can get some experience within your club, because when it goes, man, it hurts. And
when we're talking about a vital position like club secretaries, it is absolutely essential to have people who are being trained behind that person.
Yeah.
An assistant secretary, whatever you want to call it, but succession planning for all of our positions are necessary because of what Ivanhoe just said. Somebody drops out of the club, somebody changes jobs, somebody leaves the club for whatever reason, and then you're stuck. And that's not only true for secretary, but all the positions, service chair, Rotary Foundation chair, whatever. So succession planning is essential. Large and small clubs should do that. You should always have a backup person. So, somebody else was going to jump in. I think I stepped on him. Well, given that we're talking about this idea of positions and so forth, one of the things that especially the secretary and the president need to be aware of is using the online reporting and the online goal setting. And so for Ivanhoe and Misty, did you use, and I always get this confused, Club Central, Club Runner, Club Central, and did you report your goals? Did you input your goals online so that Rotary International is capturing that? And did you then update them when you were successful with succeeding in those goals? Ivanhoe?
Again, that was a shortcoming, one of my shortcomings. We didn't really do that until there at the very end of my tour. And it was a mistake on our part. But then, if you don't have an active secretary who's on top of that, with all the other responsibilities, club president, certainly, it was my responsibility, but it sort of got overlooked. And no, we did use it, but it was later on. I didn't get involved in that until almost the last 2 months or so of my year, and that hurt. So Rotary International now has our goals. I mean, we put it online on my Rotary, and it's in there. Yeah.
My Rotary.
Yeah.
There's so many of these different platforms. Misty?
Well, again, I didn't go to PETS my first term, so I didn't know anything about it until I went to PETS before my second term. So once I went to PETS, I did put some stuff in there, but that was the first and last time I really got in there.
Okay. Kurt, talk about, for all of us, the importance of making sure that we do the online reporting. Sometimes it feels like it's just added paperwork, added computer work in this case, but what's the importance of doing that?
Well, yeah, and actually that's when I made lists of things that I might want to talk about for this session. That actually goal setting was the first thing on my list. And I might note there's now a confusing bit on the screen. There's now a KUR Harper who is actually Dana Brewer, I think. Is that right, Dana?
Yes, I'm here. I am.
Yeah, so
Hey, Dana.
I just saw an email that had come in from Dana shortly before we started that he had never gotten the link to sign up. So since I signed in as the administrator, I sent him my link so he could finish out with us here. But one of the things that I am trying to use as a district governor as I visit the clubs is look at what goals have been set in the past and how performance for the clubs has matched up with that goal. I've run into a problem, and Kelly knows this because Kelly Thompson knows this because we've talked about this at a couple of meetings that she's gone to with me. There's some kind of a data glitch where even the Club Central data is not actual data for example, foundation giving or foundation goals. It didn't carry over for some reason for the last 2 years.
Wow.
Both in terms of my ability to really assess how clubs are doing, but really internally for clubs to assess how they're doing. This goal setting thing and then reporting those goals, I think, is a really valuable tool. The goal setting part is important because it lets everyone in the club try to get on the same page on here's what we think we can do this year, whether it's defining a membership plan, whether it's defining growth in project participation, which sounds like it's a key part of getting good member engagement, foundation giving, all of those. You can formulate the goal, report it in a way that then you can keep track of how you're doing. And then that gives us a way to hand that performance down from administration to administration at a district level. But in terms of helping to set just a club identity and just a communal sense of where are we as a club and where are we trying to go, that goal setting process I think is really important. And I'm trying to emphasize that when I meet with the boards as we're traveling around with our club visits.
And Kirk, if you might, there are also some awards that we miss out on.
Right.
From Rotary International for not, because most of the goals are very easily achievable, and there are awards that we miss out that the club could be receiving if they do that, and we missed out on several.
Yeah, that's right. In particular, for example, the presidential citation this year is keyed very much to the two pieces of the current vision statement: uniting people and taking action, and just stating that goal and achieving the goal in 5 categories in each of the areas is enough to get the presidential citation. And again, that's also just a matter of everyone thinking, okay, we have a goal, we've done this, and then telling the world about it. So those are very valuable practices. And actually, Misty, let me talk with you just briefly on this. You missed PETS the first year. You inherited stepping into a presidency when there was a vacancy. You were unable to go to PETS the first year. You stuck it out and went the second year. Did you find that the information at PETS was helpful to you in formulating goals or having a platform to talk to the club members about having some shared goals?
Oh, very much so. I found it. And my intention, when I did go to PETS, my intention was to go to PETS as an outgoing president with the other outgoing presidents. And so I went to the social party the night before, and it was at that I decided, you know what, I didn't go last year. I want to go this year. At least I can finish out my presidency with better information than I had going into it.
Yeah.
And so I found it hugely beneficial, and it was wonderful motivation. But I think just in general, my club's just not a very motivated club. They're just people that want to be part of a group, but they don't want to work. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's, again, it's part of the casual aspect of our club. And so getting people motivated, maybe it wasn't my strength, or it wasn't, I don't know what it was, but as pumped as I was walking out of PETS, that energy went kaput pretty quickly after I got to the club and went, let's go, guys. And they all looked at me and went, yeah, you have fun.
Okay.
So, but very good information for sure. Wonderful, wonderful information at PETS.
Okay, and that would be on that same question about doing the goal setting. I think the governance parts of PETS help people recognize how to do the critical things we're talking about defining goals and then structurally putting in place a good committee structure, as Ivanhoe emphasized and Fred talked about, having an idea of succession of leadership is, I think, a key part of that also. It probably goes with formulating and reporting the goals. That way you've got something you're handing off to your successor if you're the sitting president, and it helps the incoming president get a sense of the history that they're stepping into.
And to dovetail on that, you know, one of the things that we hear from president-elects going to PETS in February or March is that it's like drinking from a fire hose. And so one of the possibilities your clubs may think about is that by the time PETS happens in January, actually in December, you should already have your president-elect nominee, right? You should already have that person elected to ready to step into the president-elect position. So some clubs actually send their president-elect and their president-elect nominee or their president nominee to PETS, so that the first year it's like, okay, I'm receiving all of this great information, but I have time to synthesize it. I have time to let it sink in. And then it helps them plan their year much better. And so I strongly encourage that if you have a nominee, send that person to PETS. The other thing one other thing I want to stress to all of us is that we need to make sure that we have elections in December. This helps the transition. This also helps a lot of the work that Kent Erb does in trying to keep us in communication links, trying to keep our records straight. It helps our district governor elect in preparing their information, in preparing the directory and so forth. So there's a lot of reasons to have the elections in the December before the new year starts. So Ivanhoe, I think you were going to jump in.
I was just going to say about PETS again. I just can't overly emphasize the importance of PETS. I'm going to go, if y'all don't mind, I'm going to go again this year. I've gone now for the last. This will be my fourth PETS, and I just think it's worth its weight in gold. And I'm going primarily to support my people and to listen.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yes, you are certainly invited.
Okay. I was going to say I'm coming anyway. You shut me off at the door.
Other questions from our audience? Well, I'm going to ask, if there are no questions, then Dana, you've joined us as district governor-elect. What's something that you want to impart upon this year's class of presidents to help in terms of the 2021 year?
Well, Fred, one of the things that we're going to stress at this year's PETS is that we have a lot to learn. There's lots of great information out there, but we putting the fun back into Rotary. How we motivate people is making them feel welcome at meetings, making them feel like they are an important part of the group, getting them involved in committees and projects. We just find time after time that people say that if they are involved, experience, but we just a matter of fall off of the back row. So that's one of the main things that I want to emphasize to people this year. Still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I mean,
I'm here, but I wonder if we've lost.
Oh, sorry. I was on mute.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
It seemed like Dana might have been kind of cutting out or something.
Yeah, I think he was. I was talking to myself and saying we have a couple of AGs on the line. AGs, what are some hints that you might give to the presidents that we have? And in no particular order.
This is Arlen. I'll jump in. Misty talked about going to the meeting of presidents that we have here in Wichita, and I highly recommend that you work with presidents close to you and that you start early and that you prepare for not this year but for next year and the next year, because there are so many projects that we could do if we were working together that one club maybe can't do by itself. But it's very difficult to plan, execute, and evaluate a project all in one calendar year. So you really need to bring in your president-elect and maybe, you know, your past president, and maybe the same thing from 2 or 3 clubs, where you can actually begin a project that could go for 2 or 3 years. And if we could make that happen, then I think you find that there's a lot more willingness to jump in and work on some of these projects that we might not find otherwise.
boy, that's great. Great idea. I mean, I think that long range goal setting for projects, I think, is critical. We've done that with both suicide prevention and diabetes prevention, and those programs started actually 2 to 3 years ago, and they're ongoing. I think those kinds of things, boy, that's good. I really like that. I'm going to encourage. We don't have a president's council per se like the largest cities does, the Wichita does, but one of the things I did start when I first got over was the meeting with the 5 past presidents, the most immediate 5 past presidents, and we met on a regular basis to discuss this very thing. And of course, we only have 50 members. We're a 50-member club, 54 now. We're a 54-member club.
Well, but Ivanhoe, I can't remember where you're at. Are you in Liberal?
Yes, I'm in Liberal.
But you might look at trying to coordinate with Ulysses and
Yes.
City, and you know, there might be things that you guys could do in a western Kansas where you've got a little more work together. For instance, if 3 clubs went together to do a district grant, you can ask for more money than if 1 club goes together for a district grant. You could do a bigger project, but those do take longer term. And, you know, you have to plan for that succession to, okay, we're going to start it this year, but it may not happen for another 2 years.
I love it. I think that'll be something that I'll get involved in. I love that notion. And I think that is very doable in Southwest Kansas.
Excellent. Kelly?
You got to remember now, I'm a
any-
fired up Rotarian, so.
Yeah. Any words from you?
From me?
No, for Kelly Thompson. Is she still on? I guess she's not. Okay. Do we have any other AGs?
Yeah, this is Lisa Perez Miller. I'm in
Oh,
Pratt.
Lisa, right.
Yeah, I'm in
Right,
Pratt. And, we've talked a lot about the things that I felt I implemented that were effective. Obviously, setting goals, there was no question about that. I knew it was a very big stretch goal to try to assume the citation, but I put it out there in front of the board. And honestly, I had pretty aggressive board meetings. I made sure that we filled the positions that were open, and so had a full board and really had pretty aggressive agendas each meeting to show that we could accomplish whatever was put in front of us. And while we didn't achieve all of our goals, we did achieve a lot of initiatives as a group. And during our business meetings, which were usually once a month or once every 2 months, I would report out and do kind of the state of the goal or the state of the organization to keep people engaged. As we said, I also did a lot of thank you notes. All of our program chairs each month, I did a thank you note for. Just a lot of recognitions at different meetings when people either did stuff in their respective businesses or out the community, or just on behalf, or not just, but on behalf of the organization, they volunteered or they did something special. That recognition and pat on the back goes a long ways in just continuing to cultivate those relationships. I made a point every meeting at the beginning of the meeting, walking through as people were getting their meal and welcoming them, thanking them for being there, and asking about what's new and stuff. And that engagement and personal connection, I think, really set a tone for our organization. And then at the last couple meetings, I did a year-end report that showed the status of everything that was done. I acknowledged all the committee chairs, the program people, and just did a lot of rah-rahs on showing what was accomplished. Much of that was, again, just in talking and reminding people what was happening in front of them, even though they really knew. But again, it kind of pulled us all together to say, this is the end of the year, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. I love all the stuff on your walls too. I was looking for something that said Rotary.
I've got a couple plaques back there for Rotary.
Okay, they need to shine, right? We did say that this would be an hour-long webinar, and I see that we're about 3 minutes left. I'd like to give Kurt and Ivanhoe and Misty just a quick 20, 30-second opportunity to give any closing comments. So Kurt, I'm going to start with you.
Let me unmute myself. There we go. The other topic that I would have addressed had there been more time would have been the question of committee appointments. And that's something I'm painfully aware of because I'm running behind at a district level on doing the same thing. But Lisa talked about filling out her board and filling out the key assignments. So in addition to the goal setting, I would emphasize the value, I think, to both sitting presidents and to those incoming presidents that we hope to get to pets, the value of mapping out who's got the skill for which task and which are the tasks that are the ones that will most carry you forward into the current and then upcoming years. So in addition to the goal setting, personnel recognition and getting the right people in the right place goes a long way, I think, to club success.
Excellent. Thank you. Misty, one more closing comment or any closing comments?
I would just say have fun. It's so easy to get wrapped up in it and make it a job. Well, it is a job. It's supposed to be a fun thing. The Rotary in general is supposed to be enjoyable. It's not supposed to be a task. So I think that was the big thing for me that I should have remembered the whole time was just don't get too wrapped up in it and start taking yourself and the whole thing too seriously.
Excellent. And Ivanhoe.
I'd just like to say that as an incoming president, you set the tone for your club, and you've got to show some enthusiasm toward Rotary and remember what Rotary stands for. And I agree with, you got to take a look at it as not a burden, but an opportunity to excel your club beyond its wildest dreams. And you got to have that kind of attitude, and you've got to try to perpetuate that throughout your club. And I think you'll start to see some excitement. But again, the club president sets the tone. The club president is the person that sets the direction for the club. So you got to get enthused about it.
Excellent. Well, first I want to thank Misty and Ivanhoe for agreeing to be on the panel. I certainly want to thank the AGs and Kurt and Dana for participating. I hope this was useful. I want to suggest that succession planning and getting your PEs early between now and December lined out and get them elected so that they can have the first 6 months of planning without having to worry about a lot of their responsibilities as president-elect. I encourage you to do that. I also encourage you to look within your club to see who future leaders are. The idea of succession planning starts by looking at new members coming in, engaging them and saying, that's a potential officer, that's a potential service project chair, that's a potential whatever. And I encourage you to do that. And as you find these people, please let Kurt and Dana know, because these are our future leaders that we can then also look at as we move through district leadership. And that's exciting. I want to thank you all. I hope you will all be at the district conference in October. Please bring people from your clubs. This will be an exciting time with the merging of our two districts. It'll be an exciting opportunity to meet new Rotarians, not the same old faces that sometimes we get used to seeing. And most important, it'll be an opportunity to, as Misty said, have some fun. If you have other questions, please feel free to email Kurt or Dana, myself, or anybody else. You have the district directories, I hope, by now, or reach out to one of us. We'll be happy to get that information to you. So with that, we say thank you very much. We're 2 minutes over, but not too bad. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.
See ya.